Welcome everybody to Huddle Up with Matias Bueno. Today's episode is former NBA point guard José Calderón. Jose, thank you so much for being on the show today. I'm so glad that you had the time to join us. This is a pleasure.
Oh, my pleasure. No problem. Thank you for having me.
So, Jose, you had quite the NBA career, having played all over the league and having first entered in the summer of 2005, coming to Toronto when GM Rob Babcock brought you to the Raptors. What were your thoughts on coming to the NBA with having played in the Spanish league for several years before coming to America?
Well, as I think I always say the same thing. It's always looked like it's an easy move when the NBA call, but actually, it is not that easy. So they call, and I thought about it. I think changing teams in Spain or in Europe, I think is easier because you already know what's going on. How the locker rooms work, how is the game, what is the speed of the game. So you're comfortable in that environment. So when they call, I wasn't sure. I visit Toronto, went all the way up there just to see what to expect. And after make the decision of okay, let's try this. I'll take this as a great experience. Whatever happened from here, we'll see. So that's how everything worked. And yeah, I end up in Toronto.
And Toronto, especially at that time, was in a bit of an in-between period in franchise history as they had made the playoffs several years in a row in the late 90s, early 2000s, and then went on a bit of a dip before getting Chris Bosh and going back on the rise. So you joined the team at a bit of a time where they were going back towards the playoffs. So how did you carve out your role as a point guard coming off the bench in the first year in the NBA? And what was the most difficult thing about adjusting to the speed of the league?
Well, more than the speed of the league was more about my English. Being a pointer, I was really, really hard. I wasn't maybe ready enough. I thought I knew English until I got to the NBA, and I wasn't really able to connect with my guys. I always talk about this story of calling a play in the half court, looking at my teammates, and nobody was moving. Everybody was looking at each other, saying, "What this guy is saying." Like we have no idea what Jose wanted us to run. So that's how everything started, and that was my toughest situation, the toughest part of the whole transition. I think basketball is basketball. I think the speed was a few games or whatever it take you to kind of to adjust, but I think that part was the most difficult one.
So, in terms of adjusting to learning English, how much English did you know before when you were living in Spain, and how long did it take to really adjust to speaking it well enough to be able to communicate with your teammates at the level that you need to succeed?
Well, I knew English. You do that in school. You go into English classes sometime, so I felt comfortable. And I have some American players on my teams in Spain, but it's totally different. I mean, it's just a little bit when you get there and everything is thrown at you. There is English everywhere, at every speed, with every accent. It was difficult for me to really understand what was going on. More than anything, was about expressing what I wanted to. So that was the whole the difficult part of everything. It took me a while. It took me maybe almost a season to really feel comfortable about it. I was going after practices. I was doing classes just to speed up my English game. So it took a while.
And after the first year that you guys played with the Raptors in 05-06, the team really started to come around. And 06-07 was a great year for yourself and for the team, having made the first round of the playoffs facing against the New Jersey Nets. So who are some of the key teammates or maybe coaches that helped in really making you feel more comfortable in your role going into your second season in the NBA?
Well, I think everybody helped. I think it was a great group of guys. We have Sam Mitchell was the head coach, and even it was really hard for me on the first year to convince him that I could play this basketball. We got a great relationship, and after it was amazing. But after Jim Todd or Alex Inglis or Jay Triano, they was the assistant coaches. All of them, helped me a lot. Teammates, but Chris Bosh was there, and Derek Martin was a veteran who really like get me under his wing and help me out, and he played in the same position as me. So I was lucky. I got a great group of teammates. They all helped. I think they knew. I didn't speak a lot of English, but I was working really hard every day. I was trying to do my best to learn from them, and so that helped me to keep growing as a player.
And with having built yourself a nice role as the backup in Toronto and working with guys like you mentioned, Derek Martin, also TJ Ford was a prominent point guard for the Raptors during that time. Was there something that was special about being an international player in the Raptors just in the advent before they received many more international stars as time went on into 0809?
It was, you know what, it just make it easier as a kind of like a maybe in the community as well. I think that is Toronto is a crazy, is like really multicultural city. So I think from day one I was, feeling like I was home. They treat me really well since day one, from the team to the fans to everything. So it was a little bit easier maybe the adjustment to that, instead of like maybe coming straight to the US. It was a perfect city for me, and I love it. And yes, after same thing. I was lucky that another guys came with the same situation, and I was able to help them too, and they helped me as well. So it was a good international flavor there for sure for a few years.
What was the best thing that you enjoyed about the first few years that you played with the Toronto Raptors that maybe you didn't expect before coming to the NBA?
I was just everything. I think just being able to play against those big names that I was just watching on TV when I was in Spain, and being able to just compete with them. And after how everything is, the setups just for a trip, how organized everything is, how it's a little bit different than in Europe for sure. So just little details. I was just a kid enjoying or living my dream. So everything was that for years always is like, whoa, look at this arena, or look at this locker room, or look at this guy. Everything was kind of like a maze for me. So it's just big states, and so it's a lot of big changes going through your mind for sure.
You mentioned playing against some guys that you used to watch on TV when you were playing in Spain. Who is the toughest opponents that you played against during your time in Toronto? And who would you say was someone that starstruck you the most when you finally stepped on the court against them?
Well, I always got those. I mean, I played against Allen Iverson. It was really tough to defend at that time. But Prime D Rose was amazing. Uh, and after my rookie year, I was there when Kobe got 81 points. So I was on that team. And I took always that game as something historic and amazing, even if I was on the other side of the 81. But that was crazy. And after what happened with Kobe, it made even more special game. So yeah, but a lot of guys, I think guys in the NBA, there is so many really good players in this league that you don't realize. Sometimes we just get lost in the two or three big names out there, but there is so many good players.
So with the Toronto Raptors, as time went on, that was the team you had the longest tenure with. And after the 07-08 season, you guys failed to make the playoffs again before you were traded to Detroit. So in those last few years, you started to establish yourself as a starting point guard on teams that struggled more often than the teams that you played on in the first few years of being in Toronto. So how did you handle that switched role? Because you had taken over the role for TJ Ford when he was still in Toronto before he went to Indiana. So then how did you handle now being a starting point guard in the NBA?
Well, it was one more step. I mean, that was kind of like what you always kind of like a dream of. That's what you would work for. So it was one more step, and it was the time. I never was gonna rush into it. I think it's a decision that is just made because of the way you play, the way you work, maybe even the system. The coach is comfortable like giving you those minutes. But at the end of the day, it wasn't something I was really worried about. Sometimes we put too much. Same thing. We put too much maybe importance on being a starter or no. In my case, I always was a team player. I wasn't worried about how many minutes I was playing. I was just trying to win games for my team or help my teammates. Or so I know there is a stars, and after there is the other maybe layer of players. So for me, it was just about being part of something important and feel important in the team, coming off the bench or starting. But like I say, it was one more step. It was something through my work ethic and just putting the good minutes out there for my team.
You mentioned how teamwork and being a team player is very important. You had a close relationship having played alongside TJ Ford, and you guys were battled out and shared minutes during the 06-07 season. Talk about your relationship with TJ and how that continued to develop in the short amount of time you guys spent playing together.
Well, it was great. I always that's the best thing about myself. I never have any uh, bad or problem relationship problem with anyone on my teammates. Always feel I'm pretty honest. I'm pretty open. I'm pretty normal guy. So I always talk to everyone. I always have a great relationship with them. We talk a lot with TJ. I think we were different, but it was great for our team. We complement really well. Now I like enough to, he's working with a player association as well as I am doing right now and helping as well. So we started that relationship and it was great. It was an amazing um, pair of pointers for sure.
And you had many amazing moments during the times that you played for Toronto afterwards when you were the starting point guard, and including the season where you had one of only 8 players to have had over 40% 3-point percentage, 50% field goal, and 90% free throw. So what was it about your routine and your regiments that allowed you to be so successful after having adjusted to the NBA and to the style of the game over a course of 6 or 7 years before reaching that great season where you only missed 3 free throws, which is really hard?
Well, I mean, I think it just was, like I said, it was worth it. I think it was routine. It was just, actually the free throw should be the easiest one, no? And we always say that because you don't have any defense, you don't move, you don't move in any moment. So it should be the easiest one, the more automatic that, but it's when your mind kind of like get into play, and when you start thinking if you're up or down, of the game is close or is the last quarter, and that's where you start playing with everything. But at the end of the day, it was just the style of my game. I didn't force any shots, so it was more about if I was open and shooting, and I was. I was a good shooter at the moment, so that's why the 40% or the 50% of whatever. It was just because of the way of my game was doing it. I was that's lucky to have good teammates too, and a good system to allow me to get to those spots where I was more successful.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that really is a key part of making sure that you're an efficient player. And in the NBA, as difficult as it is to make it and then to play for over 10 years, being able to find that groove is really helpful to having success at the position of point guard, which is so quintessential to success in today's NBA as well, with how much the positions have started to blend and there's not as many traditional roles as there used to be. So during your time in Toronto, who would you say were the most key teammates that helped you with whether it be on the court, off the court, or you had the closest relationship with that you really enjoyed being around?
Oof, it's tough. I have a lot of teammates in Toronto. I mean, I think at the first year that I think that I mentioned before, Derek Martin helped me a lot because he was a vet. He came in and say, "I'm here to help you." He showed me a lot of things of how the NBA works. But after I was lucky to play a lot of years with Chris Boss, and he helped. And all those guys. And after, Jorge Garbajosa came, and he was, as you know, he's a teammate from national team as well. So it was easier. Anthony Parker, Mopi, Maurice Peterson at the beginning as well. So I was lucky enough to get great teammates, and everyone helped me in some way, with advice here or there, or just to talk, or just to spend some time together. But there is so many of them. Like they were great with me. I always was lucky with my teammates.
And after your departure from Toronto, you were traded to Detroit in the 3-team trade that sent Rudy Gay to the Raptors and sent Tayshaun Prince and Austin Day to Memphis. So talk about what that feeling was like, because obviously that the NBA is a business and you have to play on whatever team as best you can and fit your role. But what was the difficult part about leaving a city like Toronto that had done so much for you and your family after spending 8 seasons there?
Well, it's tough, and you could see that day that I was really emotional about it. And but just because I was, yeah, like you say, I was just leaving a lot of friends, a lot of people who helped me to get what I was. I know it was something that it could happen at any time. That's how the NBA is. But it's tough. It's tough, you start thinking about all those years and all the friends you made, all the things you did for that city. So it's always tough, But like I said, it's always there, still there. That's the good part about it. I love Toronto. I have a great relationship with everyone there. It's amazing. I mean, when it happened, it was my first time getting traded. So it's kind of like, what's going on? what is this about? But actually, it happens. It's always something pretty normal to me, and like I said, it's not like you forget about Toronto. The other way around. I think it's just you're gonna miss it even more, and the relationship even get stronger just being away.
So then let me ask you this. When your first game back in Toronto, when you were leaving to the locker room at halftime, you accidentally went the way down
it
the
was
Raptors locker room. Was that by accident or was that a little bit on purpose?
no. It was a little bit by accident because I was talking to someone. So I don't know what I was doing. So when I realized I'm already 2 steps on the left side instead of going to the right, uh, the thing was like cameras were there and they filmed that, but it wasn't that bad. It was just I knew what I was doing. I knew I was in the playing with for Detroit. I just didn't think enough.
I remember when I watched that on TV as a longtime Raptors fan, and it was definitely a heartfelt moment for all of us, knowing that one of the great point guards that we had during our team's history was, was happy to be back in Toronto, and especially with seeing how much you care about being in the city of Toronto. It was such an important thing to still continue that relationship and to enjoy the time that you spent there with old teammates and to be able to have an appreciation for the city. So that was definitely a really funny but also heartfelt moment. So
Yeah, it was great.
in the time that you spent afterwards, you bounced around you're from Detroit to Dallas, you're with the Knicks, you're with the Lakers, you were with the Cavs, you were with a whole whack of teams. So how did your mindset shift in terms of how you adapted to moving to different teams after having not been traded for 8 years? Or what was it that you did to ensure that you could stay at the same level that you needed to stay in the NBA without worrying too much about where you were playing?
No, the difference was that I make the decisions. So it was just a different kind of role. After Dallas, I go to the Knicks. I play for 2 years. 1 year in Dallas, 1 year, 2 years with the Knicks, and after that, I kind of like make a decision on where to go. So that changed everything. It was just because of situations. Like I was getting older. Um, I didn't, or maybe it was for whatever reason. Like what kind of a situation it was good for me and for my family. So it was more than that. It wasn't about looking for another long-term contract. It was about okay, what we can do here. Same thing. I don't know. Example of Cleveland. Why to sign for 2 years when if you do well, they want to sign you back. If you do bad, you want to leave. So 2 years or 1 year deals is going to be the same situation in that. So it was more about just feeling what was the right situation for me and my family, and so I wasn't really was taking a lot of into consideration of like I'm moving or not. It was during the summer. It was always have time to find a house and a school for my boys at that time. So it was a different kind of like mentality. It was already 30 plus years, so 32 or whatever. So I mean, it's starting to. I know it was less year to play than not. So I was just taking it year by year.
You mentioned getting that time to move during the summer and to transition a little bit from the NBA to having played international basketball. You played for the Spanish national team and were a person that finished on the podium as a medalist 3 times with Spain in Beijing 2008, in London 2012, as well as Rio 2016 with a bronze. What was the experience like playing international basketball at the Olympics, and how did you use that experience to help you with your time in the NBA and also to form better relationships with guys on the Spanish team that were starting to come into the NBA more so?
Well, it was amazing. I mean, just play and representing your country in an Olympic Games is crazy. I was lucky enough to represent my team 4 times, and I walked that stadium on that opening night, opening day, just working with everyone, every athlete there. So it is great, and like I say, it's not just the Olympics. We won the World Championship, European Championship. We've been together since we were like 15, 16, 17 years old, some of us. So it's another family to us, like for me, both Gasols and Navarro and Felipe Reyes and all those guys that play with us, and we are really close. Ricky Rubio and Sergio Rodriguez or Rudy Fernandez that they were in the NBA as well. So all those, we're just like I said, it's like my other family. It's always that's why it was different to play for Spain in summer because we were just getting together.
And with having played against guys in the NBA who were also your Spanish national teammates, what was that relationship like when you got to be on the court in the NBA against these guys, where in the summer you guys were very close and were playing together?
When you play, you play. I mean, we were friends. I have great friends because of the NBA. But when you play for your team. So in the core, there is like when they say there is no friend, you don't even think who is in front of you. You just playing. You just playing. You're trying to think about what is the next play, what I got to do, how I got to play this defense, how I got to communicate with my teammates, and before the game, after the game, we're back. But so we were clear on that, and that's what we did. And you're always trying to beat the other team. That's all you can do, and there is no time to think about it.
It must be a really cool feeling after the game to be able to, once things have settled down and the dust is cleared, that you get to relax and have some fun and be able to chat with old teammates and also friends and to chat with opponents, right? You get the opportunity to be with those guys after the game and really enjoy just the relationship that you've developed from having been from the same country and having played together for the national team as well.
Totally, and we were looking for, and one of the first things you take a look at when they release the games of the decision, the schedule, you just look at, okay, let me see when I play the Spanish guys, to if I go in a back to back or not, and I can have dinner with them. And we got a little bit extra time to spend, so that was always a highlight for sure of the season.
So with looking at the great success that many more international players have started to have in the NBA, what does it mean to you knowing what the position that you were in when you first entered the league versus now how many international stars are entering into the league and how great of a name that they've all made for themselves?
Well, it's great, but I think it's like everything. It's not just the NBA. I think everywhere. We are a multicultural, community everywhere around the world. So I think we just got to get used to it and like live with each other like we've been doing. And for us, it was like I said, like I love it to have the more people from everywhere. I think that's what it is. This is what this world is about. And so I'm really happy and for the opportunity for those guys. And it doesn't matter where you're from. If you can play basketball or you can do whatever job you do, it doesn't matter where you are. You just gotta enjoy, have fun with your teammates, and that's all. So really happy, and hopefully we get more and more.
Absolutely. And with the rising stars such as Antetokounmpo, as well as Kristaps Porzingis, the sky's the limit for international basketball entering the NBA. And it's so fun to see how much more competitive the Olympics are becoming, with Lithuania becoming a powerhouse, Spain maintaining their strength, and same with France. So to touch upon that a little bit, with playing for Spain, but playing against the US, what was that matchup like? Because for any objective observer of the Olympics, you'd think that the US is always penciled in to be the champions, and it's just a matter of how many points they're going to beat their opponents by. But how did you approach playing the US when you were on Spain, and what do you think some of the differences are that you've seen in how closely teams compete with them as the years go forward?
Well, we were too close 3 times, but we couldn't beat them. We couldn't pass them. That was the only thing from the national team. Like we got kind of like almost there. We lost the two finals and the semifinals in Rio. But I mean, they got amazing teams. It's tough to stop LeBron James and Kobe Bryant's and Kevin Durant's and all in the same time. It's tough to make all of them to have a bad game. So we did a great job against a few of them, but there's always someone who came up, and Carmelo and all those guys. So, but it was tough. We compete. We play really close until the fourth quarter, even the last minutes of the fourth quarter, and we were right there to win that gold medal, but we couldn't. But it was always great. I think that's why we gain a respect too with them. Even when you get here in the NBA, they respect us even more because of those games, and they know when they were playing Spain, they were playing a really good basketball team.
And that makes a lot of sense, especially considering how close the games have been. But when you think about all the star power that is on the American team, you can only make so many guys have bad games, like you said, when the most talented teams internationally besides the US are usually the ones that have the most amount of NBA players for the most part. I remember growing up watching Lithuania wasn't as good of a team until Kleza came, and then they had other guys, Valanciunas, that for a teammate with yourself, it really started to pick things up. But Serbia, Spain, Australia, France were always the big teams because of the number of NBA players. But I think that the more guys that end up in the NBA from international places, the better off Olympic basketball is going to be, because there's been times in the past before Argentina, the famous 2004 team that beat the Americans, that ended up winning, the gold medal. Whereas that can happen in the future. It just takes a lot of that unity from guys playing internationally and then also being able to cross over to the NBA.
Yeah, totally, totally. I think basketball is getting better everywhere, and it's getting more competitive, and it's difficult to win games, and there is no easy games as before. Like you go just show up and beat somebody by 30 or 40. That doesn't happen, and is you got to be ready. Everybody can beat you to one game, and that's all you need to be out. So that's why it makes it so special, and it's gonna keep going that way for sure.
When playing for Spain internationally, were there any specific teams besides the US that you guys had a strong rivalry against?
Well, we play a lot against that Argentina that win, and we actually beat them that Olympics. We just couldn't pass US on all four. We lost on that against that team, and we couldn't kind of like go for the gold medal in that one. But yeah, Argentina and France, and like you say, all the names you name, they were fighting with us. We won a lot, but there is always those teams that were against us. We couldn't pass US, like I said before, but we have great battles with everybody else.
And in the NBA, there was an interesting article I read several years ago about Kyrie Irving talking about his welcome to the league and having tough matchups with you when you played for the Raptors and the Pistons. So talk about what that experience was like, playing against someone who is now an absolute superstar in the NBA versus like when they first entered, here you were giving him the works, so to say, especially considering that he was a very high draft pick. What was that experience like, playing against a tough competitor like Kyrie Irving?
There's always, like I said, there's so many good players in this league, man. And play against Kyrie was, for me, like I say, you don't think who you got in front of you of this first round, number one overall, or number 35. For me, was just trying to do my job, and that was always my mentality. When he said that, I was surprised too. I didn't know he remembered that game, but yeah, it was good. I remember it was a really good game, but like I say, it was like something I was doing at that time, and it was the way I was playing, and it was one of my best years. Those years were the best ones, and it's like I said, it's just that's how you can like gain respect in this league. So it wasn't about getting crazy numbers. It was about the way you play, the way you compete, and that's how it made me what I was and what I in the league.
And Irving went on to be an NBA champion with LeBron in Cleveland in 2016. And LeBron was also someone that you had the opportunity to play with during your time in Cleveland in 17-18. So what was it like playing with LeBron, especially considering your entire career? You had made the playoffs in 2 seasons with the Raptors, and then you were on the Pistons and bounced around to different teams. And then we're finally with a player that people would widely consider as the greatest player in NBA history. What was that experience like?
It was great. I got a great relationship with him. I love it. It was a great experience. And after have the chance just not to know him and spend time with him, but just to go all the way to the finals, and even like we couldn't pass the Golden State Warriors. But I mean, it was an amazing experience. It was a great year. Yeah, it's always going to be a special year for me, 100%. And like I said, LeBron, one of the best for sure. There is no doubt about it. What he's been doing and what he's still doing. And it's crazy. He deserved it. He worked hard. He's a great teammate. He got everything to do it, and there is no secret. But I mean, knowing him personally, even more. He's a great guy.
Absolutely. LeBron is a truly fantastic player and has done so much for the league during his time. It was very, very long tenure. To think that he entered the league before you entered and is still playing at such a high level is crazy to think about.
It is crazy, but it is amazing. I love to still watching him play every night, and it's yeah, what he does and how he knows basketball. That's pretty impressive.
Another teammate of yours that has made an impact on the game in the NBA was DeMar DeRozan, with his coming forth about struggling with mental health and talking about the importance of what that has meant for him during his NBA career. During the whole entirety of your journey through the NBA, did the topic of mental health ever become an important component of your play and your routine, or what does that mean to you in light of what you did during your basketball career?
I think it's something is more maybe people are more open to talk about it these days, just because guys like Demar. But I mean, at the end of the day, what people don't realize, like we're just human beings like everybody else. There is a lot of pressure, and there is a lot of situation where it's not easy. So it's not only just focus on you playing the NBA and you have this or you have that. There is a lot of other issues that you have sacrificed to be able to get what you have to get, and it is important. We went through with a lot of teammates situation where you got to help, and you need help from the outside as well. So same thing. I think everybody went through something like that, and sometimes we don't realize that persons are people like we having trouble, and it's important to talk about it. And sometimes we don't feel like playing or whatever, or you don't feel like going to work. But there is a lot of things like can go through your mind, and it's important to practice and train your mind as well. And it's really great what they did to come forward and say, and for people to realize you're just not an athlete, you're just a person, and you're going through a lot of situations that they're not great as well.
And I can only imagine how difficult it would be with all the things that you have to take care of, and that some of the sacrifices you mentioned you'd have to make with being away from your family or having to move a bunch. So, what were some of the things that you maybe struggled to deal with during the first years of your NBA career, and what were some of the things that you did to help you get back on track and to really take care of yourself in all aspects of your life more than just playing basketball?
I think my family helped a lot, just being with my wife and after my kids. I think that was always my way of disconnect and just kind of like a focus on something else. But I mean, at the end of the day, just about for me was I'm a pretty easy guy, so I was always really comfortable, really open arms to new situations and just looking for the positive side of things. So always was good with me, and I always had guys to talk about things or help or just being able to do whatever. So I think it's just who is around you too is really important in these situations for sure.
Absolutely. And having your family there to support you and having that group to disconnect with is such a great part of playing in the NBA. And especially with how difficult it can be at times, having that thing that is, or that person or that group of people who are beyond yourself
Mm.
to play for, to be happy to be supported by is such a great thing. Um, Especially during a career where you may move from team to team, or you may not get your chance to establish yourself in a city, or you played in Toronto for 8 years, but you could have been traded after 2 years, or you could have been sent to another team. And so that's I'm sure something that you're very, very fortunate for, and look back on with great pleasure.
No, it was yeah. I mean, something really, really special for sure. Great experiences. That's the main thing. I think it's just having friends now, and not just teammates or not just rivals. I think that's something more about it, and all this move and being able to know new people every time. That was something that's always going to be with me for sure.
So, in the scope of playing international basketball, playing the NBA, and now working with the Players Association, what talk about your role and what it is that you do with them, and what some of your goals are in this role.
Well, for me was, when Michelle approached me, it was about just having a player in the office, in the daily basis, just help with every department, just give our player point of view in some of the projects and the stuff that we do every day for the players, and so just helping with that, and hopefully finding another one to after get into this role. I think it's important to have always someone there, and that's what we're trying to do. And I was lucky to be part of all of these the last year with the bubble and with the coming back to play and stuff like that and be part of those conversations. It's been an amazing journey. Really happy and excited about how these last few months have been, and just keep working with that and helping with every just give my opinion on everything on a lot of situation that we have for sure.
And especially with how the NBA has really made a great return to play model, with having played in the bubble, similar to the WNBA as well, and with the league continuing to play this year and adjusting with the Raptors playing in Tampa Bay. It must be awesome to know that you have a hand in being able to help with the NBA dealing with such a difficult challenges, COVID, and also being able to still play and deliver that entertainment for fans and the opportunity for players to play and to do what they love.
Yeah, it's been a challenge for sure, and for everyone. Like we like it's been for everyone everywhere. I mean, at the end of the day, but just trying to do the right thing, the safe thing, and just being in a great communication with everyone involved, just to make sure everybody's comfortable with what we're doing and how we're doing things. And there is a lot of people working behind the scenes to make this happen, and that's the good thing about it. And hopefully we can keep going this way and in a safe place for everyone.
Yeah, that is a very important thing and such a quintessential element of the NBA going forward to make sure that safety is taken care of and that the league can continue to be played, because who knows what this would have been like years ago, or if it was during your playing career. Like, I couldn't imagine what that experience would be like, having to be in the bubble away from your family or not knowing when you're going to return to play, or if you are. That would be something that's very, very scary.
Yeah, for sure, totally different kind of challenge. And I was there, was happy, was there for 3 weeks and in the bubble, and I just kind of like the feeling of what it could be and what they took for some of those guys to be that long in there. But it was, it was something. It was we have to make it happen. So, but it was good. Like I said, it's just challenge for everything. Totally different from now, from being a player, but it's still great, and a lot of work for sure that everybody did to make it happen.
So in the time that you've spent now being having been retired for the last year, have you ever had a chance to return to Toronto outside of the scope of being a player?
Yes, I was there. I was there last year once, just to do some stuff with the Raptors and with some of the other former Raptors. So I was there for a couple of days, enjoying one of the games and seeing friends. So it was really good.
So during your time in Toronto, I must ask as well, what was your relationship like with some of the people in the organization who are outside of maybe players and coaches? You know, Matt and Jack were the announcers there with you guys doing play-by-play and color commentary for the entire time you were in Toronto. What was it like being able to get to know some of those people as well?
Always good, always good. Like I say, I think my relationship with everyone was great. That's why it made Toronto different. It was almost 8 years, so that's a long time to make friends. So I love it, not just from like the media part, but it was a lot of friends from the organization, people who work in the stands, like people like the staff members, or even Larry Tannenbaum and company. So it was everyone. It was a lot of people who we have a relationship with, and I still have a relationship with, and that's the most important part, like I said.
What games in particular in your career stick out to you the most in terms of your favorite or most memorable from your time playing in the NBA in general, even outside of Toronto?
I mean, there is so many. It's difficult to just pinpoint one. Like I said, I think like the debut was amazing, just because it's your first game. I think that's the 81 points with Kobe is something you got to be there for sure. First play of game, maybe the first triple double or something like it. So it was always games, man. But all of them at the end of the day, being able to play in the NBA is crazy, amazing. So I think anyone, there is always something to remember.
And in terms of how your role as an athlete crosses over into other sports, it's been seen in the NBA before that other international players, they show their pride for their country and supporting the other international sports teams that they play. So having been from Spain and having played for the Raptors during the time that the Spanish national soccer team was having so much success, what was that like during that time being a professional athlete and watching Spain have so much success between 2008 and 2012 in international soccer?
Well, I mean, it was, you know, we were lucky. Like Spain is crazy, and like it was so everything was kind of like at the same moment. So soccer was, we all love soccer there, and when they won, it was, for a while we were the world champions in basketball and in soccer. I think at the same time. So both teams that from Spain, and after you got Rafa Nadal too, that in tennis, or Alonso in F1. So it was so many sport, athletes and teams that they were doing right that it felt nice saying, here I am, I'm from Spain, and this is what we do. And soccer was amazing when we won those, and like I said, but everything was just great.
That must have been super fantastic to be able to witness that and to see all those Spaniards having great success. And Jose, with that, we're at the end of our time now. I want to thank you so much for having been on today's episode. It's been an absolute pleasure. Is there anything else you wanted to finish off with before we sign off?
No, everything was great, man. Thank you very much for having me. It was always good to remember all those great times that I have in Toronto and in the NBA, and so thank you.
Well, thank you everyone for listening to today's episode with former NBA point guard Jose Calderón.